It doesn't seem like it's enough. It never feels quite enough to get the performance that you want in the race, but it ends up being enough. And I think that that structure helps me to build structure in what I do. And it's one piece of structure in a very chaotic world sometimes that I can control. I know that when my alarm goes off at 4:15 in the morning, which it does most mornings,
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to be doing.
Gotta go get in the pool,
bike or
or get on the
swim or
trainer.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
All right, cool. Hey everybody, before we dive into the video, the HGA production team has a favor that they want me to ask you. You know how crazy we are about putting out the greatest fundraising content that we possibly can. Great episodes, great guests, amazing content that you can't find anywhere else. Well, show us some love, like the video. It takes 2 seconds. It's gonna keep motivating us to put out the best fundraising content that we possibly can. Show us some love, like the video.
It's so funny. I was prepping for our episode, and I wrote down a few things. One of the things I wrote down was, you consult a lot about leadership and what have you. Obviously, you're the digital side of things and whatnot. By the way, Nathan Whittacre, for Stimulus Technologies. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. But you were I was doing some reading on your dossier about leadership and whatnot, and I started writing down some like habits for leaders and what have you. And I wanted to get your feedback about that. And I just love how we can weave in endurance athletics because we both have a background in it, and you're still full fledged and I'm moonlighting. I wrote down humility for some reason. And obviously you can gain a lot of humility over time being in business, but also doing Ironman. Tell me your thoughts about, let's expand on that a little bit and what it's meant to you doing these things and what, like you said, it's like, I like to ask 4 questions at one time, as you can tell. I always like to say, our job as leaders, or if you start a company, if you're a CEO, or we work with a lot of nonprofits, Nathan. So if you're a CEO or a development director, or an executive director of a nonprofit, or a founder of a nonprofit, I call it plumbing. And a very wise person told me a long time ago that your plumbing coming in is this big. And for those of you listening, I'm making my hands really, really wide. And then the plumbing going out is very, very narrow. And no matter what you do, that will never change. It will never match. So you'll have to find something that will allow you to handle everything that's coming, your way. And I think that being a leader and whatnot, or just being alive, I want you to speak to that, if you don't mind.
Sure. There's a lot of interesting discussion. You mentioned humility, kind of this idea of servant leadership. And, I'm Christian. I was raised believing in Jesus, and here's an example of leadership, of, leading a movement that's lasted, 2,000 plus years, and, a complete belief system. And it's all about being, a servant to those that you're leading. And I think that's a lot of what great leaders do is, they participate in the effort and know, top to bottom what it takes to get things done and to understand individuals. No matter what business we're in, whether it's a high technology business, a nonprofit, a CPA firm, whatever it may be, it is a complex environment that you're running, but it is also a people business. We're just serving people, and we're making people's lives better through technology, through accounting, through nonprofit service, whatever it may be. In the end, we're providing an experience. We're providing an ability for somebody else's life to improve and to deliver a service to do that. And that should be our goal as leaders of the organization. And I think it's important for us to come to the organization as a strong individual, but also as a servant. So, and that's one of the things I love about endurance sports and why I continue doing it, even though it takes so much of my time. It gives me focus and releases a lot of the stress that comes from the day-to-day in business. I can take it out on a hard workout, or in the pool, or whatever it may be, or at a race. Even though that isn't a stressful event, it is de-stressing me from everything else that's on my shoulders. And so I can come to the organization the best I am, and always, focus on that improvement of myself. So that's why I do the endurance sports. And
I think it's awesome.
That's kind of my belief in leadership.
I think also, I mean, I know you could speak to this, doing those events and whatnot, it fills up your cup,
It does.
right? Yeah. I mean, I think it's awesome. You were talking about obviously you speak about building culture within organizations and whatnot. And you're talking about, you know, um, leading through service. Talk to me about building a culture that resonates that top to bottom, no matter how big or how small your organization is a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do talk a lot about culture, and with a bend of technology, I try to get our clients, customers to embrace technology from a culture perspective. And culture is one of these nebulous words, right?
Hmm.
Do we
Hmm.
do we really
It's
understand what it
frothy. It's frothy. It's a buzz
Yeah,
term. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard this term, it's a suitcase word. It's like,
Interesting.
yeah, you could throw a bunch of things in it, right?
You
It's
carry
like
it with
this,
you wherever you go and use it whenever
right.
you want. Yeah. 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 Take
And
it on the
and
road. You can
different
take
people
all on the
define it in
road.
different ways. I think, sometimes culture, people want to just put plaques on the wall and say, our culture is integrity or hard work or, whatever it may be. And, some of the things that we try to define as culture inside our businesses are just things that we should do to pay to play. Should you have a business that's not, doesn't have integrity, No, defining culture as integrity, that just should be default, right? Patrick Lencioni, wrote an article, I think, that exemplifies that of, how you define your values and culture. I think culture is just, the way things that are done around here. How do you operate day to day? And it is important from a leadership perspective that the leaders are intentional about the operations from a day-to-day perspective. And, the culture does come from the leadership of the organization. And that leadership may be intentional or may not be intentional. How you as a leader of an organization show up every day, how do the middle managers, how do the employees show up every day really defines the culture of the organization, because that's how the way things are done around here is the way everybody operates. And, I talk about it from a technology perspective. We deal a lot with customers, clients that are dealing in cybersecurity issues and compliance, things like that are very technical. And some companies that have difficulty incorporating a lot of the new technology, a lot of the new things that are coming about because, their culture is not a culture of change. It's very difficult for organizations to change. And, the way I talk is today it's essential to constantly be changing. The world is changing around us. AI now is the new thing that we're always talking about. And, organizations that are integrating these new technologies are going to leapfrog above other companies that aren't. And we're going to see a dramatic shift in the environment. I think that is going to change the way business happens. It's going to take probably 50 years for it to happen, just kind of
Right.
like the way
Yeah.
the
Before the
internet.
robots all take over. Yeah. 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 But we'll be
Maybe,
gone.
maybe,
Yeah. We won't be doing triathlon at that point. We'll be gone.
or maybe that's all we do. There's
No,
just enough.
hey, the
That would be
world's your
amazing.
oyster.
Yeah.
I constantly say this, I'm a born optimist. I don't get a chance to shake it out of me. I have an alacrity for everything that we do. It's pretty, I was like a gift that was given to me, right? Without like, I'm not patting on my back. It's just literally something I wake up with. I think it's the greatest time ever to be alive. I'm constantly shouting at the rooftops about that and whatnot to whoever will listen, but you said something about change and the world changing at an alarming rate. I mean, the world spins at this, on an axis at this crazy, crazy rate, figuratively and literally all around us at all times. And I'm really allergic to the term rigidity. I think it's one of the worst traits of any company. I won't get into personal things, but like any company or any organization, I think we've always done it this way. And I don't know if you hear that a lot or whatnot. It's like, we're not going to change. I just don't understand people's lack of flexibility and being malleable and welcoming change. Do you think it's because it makes people feel, I mean, it's probably obviously because it makes you feel uncomfortable, but then the antithesis of that is change leads to growth. I've said that for a really long time, or at least I've been aware of that for a really long time. Talk about people's reluctance and what you found, and maybe some tools that folks can use to get over the hump, so to speak, no matter what kind of organization they're running.
So, again, taking from a technology perspective, because that's what we deal with,
Yeah,
I
totally.
think it's hard. Somebody that, understands the day-to-day work that they do, if you're I'll use a nonprofit again, if you're
Thank you.
used to serving, your childhood cancer foundation or something like
Yep.
that, you really
Yep.
know how to work with patients of dealing with their cancer, and that's your day-to-day. And then somebody comes along and says, "Oh, you need to use AI to better serve your clients." And the executive director goes, I have no idea what AI is. I don't, I know that there's this chat GPT thing and I don't understand it. I don't want to, and there's a fear, right? I think what happens is there's this fear of change, and that fear comes because of lack of understanding. That it's a
We fear
new,
what we don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
that's very
like
true.
jumping into this deep dark hole, and you don't know if it's a foot down, 10 feet down, 100 feet down, if there's something to catch you, if it's going to be amazing. You don't know, because you don't have the insights to see what that looks like. And so I think it's important to have a guide to help you through that process. I've recently been studying about this idea of story branding,
Sure.
your
Yeah.
company, and
Great book. Great book.
yeah, it's a great book. And what I didn't realize, and it was funny because I have a teenage daughter that's taking English class, and they're kind of studying the hero's journey, and it's used in movies all the time, whether it's these action films, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or these movies that we love.
Stop. I'm re-recording. Sorry, man.
That's
Yeah. Once again, I'm the guy running the ship today. But we're good. We're good, man. I was like, oh, clip that. It's so good because the story brand is a really great. It's a really great passage, right?
this idea behind story brand, the hero's journey. And I think, for the hero to succeed, they have to have this expert guide, kind of
Mm-hmm.
going back to Star Wars, Luke Skywalker would have never been able to, beat the Empire without these guides along the way, whether it's Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda or whatever it may be, whoever the character was, there was always this guide to lead them along down this scary path that they don't understand. And, with any change, I think it's really important to have an expert guide to lead you along the way, because they've gone that path before. They understand what it takes to get there. And kind of going back to the sports analogy too, having a coach is essential. It's kind of the same thing. You mentioned that, when you were doing endurance sports, you had a team, you had a coach, you had people to help you through I think it's essential to, whether you're the CEO of an organization or, an endurance athlete, a sports athlete, or you need somebody to help you along the way and lead to the best performance you can get.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that we could unpack that for so long. Just being like relinquishing that control. I think that happened with me with time. I'm, 44, and I'm a much better version than I was when I was 34. And I've got a great partner and with our company, not just my wife. I got her too. Speaking of her, like for instance, it's amazing what we've been able to accomplish as a company. I met my wife, started our company, and just the amount of just like almost unspeakable support. And then I end up hitting the lottery with my business partner. And then we end up hitting the lottery with our team, and we run a family business, and there's 19 of us. And it's just been amazing. We get to work with 1,000 nonprofits, and we get to do great podcasts. I mean, it's just such a joyous thing. And it was really just an exercise in people, like you've mentioned, and then just surrounding yourself with A players and letting them cook is what I always call it. Like you're a thoroughbred, you want to run, and just putting people in a position. We have like a saying, we're like, they're good people. Let's just get them on the bus, and then we'll figure out where they're going to sit type thing. And I mean that in the most respectful way, right? Man, I just, without getting emotional, it's just been such an amazing journey for us. And I think it can be for everybody else, but you have to be open to it and trust and all these things that come along with it. I think it can be such a beautiful journey. And no matter what your walk is, like you said, you're in digital security and whatnot, right? So there's still such a huge people component to the whole thing, because That's our world. That's how we were built. All these things, we could talk about it for a very long time. You know, we were talking about, habits for leaders. We're talking about culture. Obviously, you could speak in depth about personal health. And as I mentioned, we work with a lot of nonprofit professionals, and it's not a joke or anything like that, but there is a theme, and it's overworked, underpaid, asked to do things that they have. I was speaking to a nonprofit professional yesterday, and we deal in event fundraising. And she says, I've never done this before. And she was tasked with doing it. And she was like literally explaining visceral physical pain to me that she was experiencing because it's so stressful. And that's the world. That's the world of a lot of nonprofits and these folks, these nonprofit professionals will absolutely bleed for their organization, for their mission and who they support. And they do amazing, amazing work. We've been exposed to some amazing organizations. We have been exposed and work with, children's oncology organizations, as you mentioned, when you gave your example in real time. Give folks some feedback for the folks that are, what would you do for your personal health, for instance? Maybe what would be step 1, 2, and 3 if you're overworked, overwhelmed? You said triathlon, especially Ironman, the longest distance there is. I don't know if they do Ultraman anymore, but it provides you focus and an outlet, you said. And I said it fills up your cup. I always say things like, if I could bang out like a 20-mile run, it gave me a lot of juice. You know what I mean? To really operate, right? Gives folks some feedback and through your experience and what you would do. You don't have to do Ironman, but for instance.
Well, I'll share a very interesting example because I think it relates to exactly what you said, and then I'll share some personal views. So a good friend of mine, we are in a CEO peer group together. She is, ironically, an executive director, CEO of a large nonprofit here in Nevada.
Awesome. Love to meet her.
Yeah, very, very amazing woman. And she is a runner also, so have that in common, and ran through high school, college, continues to run all distances up to marathon, even being a mom of 2 kids and, the stressful growth of this nonprofit. About 8 months ago, she was just getting some routine blood work, and they said, you need to check yourself into the emergency room now, and ended up being in there for 30 days. She has leukemia, and she had no idea.
Sorry.
But they caught it early, and they've said and it was a late stage, no outward symptoms, but it was a late stage leukemia. But she's making a full recovery, and they keep saying over and over again that it's because she was healthy. She took time for herself, that she was able to overcome that. And, I think it's a story that we need to, as Americans especially, we need to understand that, we have one life to live, we have one body, one life. And no matter what work that we do for other people, we have just this one time to live. And so it's important that we take care of ourselves too, and take that time out. And I think taking care of our health is also important, because we have to show up every day as leaders or as employees or whatever we are inside the organization at our top performance. And, you don't have to be an Ironman athlete. There's a lot of things you can do to be healthy, but I think it requires habits. And that's another book, Atomic Habits, I think is a great book to read if you want to change your lifestyle. It's a very basic method of making dramatic changes in your life, one little step at a time. Figure out something you enjoy doing. You have to want to do it. For some reason, I enjoy endurance sports, being out there for 4 hours on a marathon or 12 hours on an Ironman, whatever it may be. I don't know what that means about my head, but I enjoy it.
That means you're certifiable, bro. That's what
yeah.
that just means you're a masochist. That's all
Yeah,
you got.
maybe. But I like the structure of it. I got a race coming up, put a plan together. My wife is in it too, which is amazing. Her and I can work together, and we coach each other. And so, it gives us an opportunity to say, okay, what are you doing? What's your plan? I have my plan. We modify each other's plans. But it's really cool to be able to, just work incrementally towards these big outcomes. And I think it trains the mind to realize that, even though you're doing, maybe a short workout, 30 minutes or an hour, whatever it may be, And, that doesn't seem like it's enough. It never feels quite enough to get the performance that you want in the race, but it ends up being enough. And I think that structure helps me to build structure in what I do. And it's one piece of structure in a very chaotic world sometimes that I can control. I know that when my alarm goes off at 4:15 in the morning, which it does most mornings,
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to be doing.
Gotta go
Get
get in the
up,
pool,
bike or
or get on
swim
the
or something.
trainer. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
awesome. That's awesome.
But it's structure, and then I feel good afterwards. I'm awake. I'm prepared to tackle what needs to happen that day. There's so many hormones that are released that are tremendous for longevity and performance and health, and you got to couple it with good eating.
Fair.
Cooking at home and eating the right foods, I think, is essential as part of it too. But it's definitely a different lifestyle. It's a very change of lifestyle, but I think it improves who we are, how we show up every day, and just improves our lives overall.
I think it's such a lovely way to put it. I think what I constantly say to myself inward is I treat my health like my life depends on it type thing. You know what I mean? When I'm creating my own meals and stuff like that. And I've got a 20-year-old and a 6-year-old, so really trying to impart those habits on them, and hopefully being a good vessel for that for folks that I come into contact with. I'm in the same boat as you. I've been saying I put together some really cool rules for myself over time, and one of them was in business. I said it just worked out so well for us. I said just be kind to everyone, and then the caveat is especially yourself, because you cannot give what you do not have. And I think that, like, we just keep on talking about filling your own cup up with that kind of stuff. And it's never a poor investment. It doesn't have to be Iron Man. It doesn't have to be, yeah, I understand completely, but it needs to be something. And there's so many different avenues, and you can tear yourself down and build yourself back up again in so many different disciplines. And, Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. I think, you could look at fitness like that and try them all, That's how I look at it. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, whether it's, pickleball or, walking or, whatever it may be, if, basketball pickup games, whatever, just, find a group. I think the community is important to it too, finding a group of people that you enjoy doing it with and build that community. I think as adults, it's often been said, a lot of studies are saying that us as adults, we don't have as many friends, as we should.
Mm-hmm.
And, especially close friends. Adult males, we often have a hard time making new friends. And, I think it's important for adults to have those friendships. And a lot of those can come through the communities we built with sports or, those outside activities. I think those are essential to our well-being.
Did you join is there a triathlon club there in Las Vegas?
There is. Yeah, there is.
Cool.
So when I started, I joined a training team. We'd meet for swim training in the morning. We'd do other activities. There's a tri club here.
Cool.
It's fun.
That's awesome, man. Fantastic. Hey, Nathan, so author of The CEO's Digital Survival Guide. Tell folks a little bit about it, if you don't mind, a synopsis of it, and then where they can find it and all that good stuff.
Sure, thanks. So I wrote the book a few years, or published last year, and I always get questions from leaders of organizations of like, what technologies do I need to implement inside my company? How do I understand the technologies I need? How do I talk to an IT person or technology person? And so I wrote the CEO's Digital Survival Guide as a guidebook, kind of going back to this guidebook, to help leaders understand how to implement the right technologies inside their company. So I mix up some stories. I make it non-tech speak or translation from tech speak. And, the key words that you need to know to be able to have conversations with the right people to implement the technologies inside your company. So you can find it on Amazon or other booksellers, and it's available now. And
cool.
I'd like to make an offer. Anybody that wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'd be happy to send them a copy of the book. So just find me on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard you on this podcast, and I will send you a copy of the book.
Well, that's a very nice offer. Fantastic. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes, and then when we put out the episode and all that stuff, and we'll put it on our channels. And is that the easiest way to find you, Nathan, is on LinkedIn?
That's the easiest way to find me. Yep.
Cool. LinkedIn's been awesome. I love the maturity of LinkedIn. It's been really, really cool. We've met some really awesome people on LinkedIn, and this conversation is no different. So I appreciate you, Nathan, taking the time. Thanks so much. for being so open with your life and how you're leading it and all that stuff and living it. And I think it's awesome, man. So thanks so much for sharing. I know folks will get a lot of value out of it. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate the time. And thanks, everybody, for listening.
Cool, man. Awesome. Well, and good luck at your next race. That's awesome, bro.
Hey, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you don't mind, if we got any value out of it, please leave a comment or a question below. And if you're in a binging mood, we've got an HCA playlist of all of our podcasts and webinars that you can watch at any time. If you have a specific question about a certain fundraising topic, we're HCA. We've probably covered it. So take a look at the playlist, and we'll see you all next time.